Sometimes when we're adding fractions, we have fractions that have different denominators, and we know from our prior knowledge that you can never add a fraction with a different denominator. So in order to do that, you need to find a common denominator between the two numbers. What we do is we take both of our denominators. So we have a denominator of 3 and a denominator of 2. And what we do is we list out our multiples until we find a number that is the same between both numbers so that we can create a new fraction with the same denominator. So I'm going to list my multiples of 3 first. So remember, we always start with that number. So we start with 3. 3 times 2 makes 6. 3 times 3 makes 9. 3 times 4 makes 12. And 3 times 5 makes 15. I'm going to stop there. If I need more numbers later on, I can always add it. But remember, this is just multiples or what that number makes. So 3 can make a 3. 3 can make a 6. 3 can make a 9. 3 can make 12. 3 can make 15. Let's do the same thing with 2. Again, start with 2. 2. 2 times 2 makes 4. 2 times 3 makes 6. 2 times 4 makes 12. 2 times 5 makes 10. Okay, I do see some numbers that are the same. You want to take the lowest number that they have in common. So although they have 12 and 12, that's the same, we're going to take the lowest number that's the same between both of them, which is 6. So 6 is going to actually be my new denominator I'm going to create. So I'm going to take my fractions and I'm going to set it up just like we did when we did equivalent fractions to show that that's the new denominator that I want. So I have 1/3 and 1/2. Now I say to myself, what times 3 is going to give me 6? Well, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Found it. So 3 times 2. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 1 times 2 is 2. There's my new fraction. Do the same thing with 1/2. 2 times what makes 6? Well, I knew that 3 times 2 makes 6, so 2 times 3 would give me 6. Again, what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. There's my new created fraction. Now I have two fractions with the same denominator. I can go ahead and add the fractions together. 2/6 plus 3/6 equals, we never add denominators, 2 plus 3 makes 5. Before I can say that that's my final answer, make sure it's reduced. Can 2 make 5? No. Can 3 make 5? No. That's my least reduced fraction, so that's my final answer, 5/6. Let's try another one. Let's do 3/4 plus 6/8. Again, both of my denominators are different. I can't add those fractions. I need to create a common denominator between both of them. I take both of my denominators, 4 and 8, and I'm going to list out my multiples for each. So I would start with 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16, and I'm going to stop there. Let's do 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. Do we see a number that's the same between both of them? I do. They don't share a 4, but they do share an 8. So 8 is going to be my new denominator for both of my fractions. Again, so this is step 1. Step 2, now I have to create my fractions with my new denominator. So I have 3/4, and you're creating it with that new denominator of 8. And then 6/8, again, create it with that new denominator of 8. 4 times what makes 8? Think to yourself, 4 times 1 makes 4. 4 times 2 is 8. There's my number, times 2. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. There's my new created fraction. Again, you're really making an equivalent fraction using common denominators. 8, 8. Well, what makes 8? 8 times what makes 8? We know 8 times 1 makes 8. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 6 times 1 is 6. I have 2 fractions with the same denominator. I can go ahead now for step 3 and actually add those fractions. 6/8 plus 6/8 gives me, we know we never add denominators, so my denominator stays the same. And 6 plus 6 we know is 12. There's my answer. We end up with what we call an improper fraction. Something that we're going to learn at the end of this week, starting tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday, is how to convert that improper fraction back to your mixed number, which will be in the next video. That's how you find common denominators.